Hello and welcome to Holding the Space. I'm today with, I can only describe it as a 21st century coven for remembering the accused witches of Scotland. Thank you very much for joining me. Tell us about how this came about.
In 2018, I was running a series of Sunday seminars, I think it was at the time. I was inviting people to come and give talks at Dunfermline, Carnegie Library and Galleries. And it just so happened that one of my speakers couldn't come because she was having a hip replacement. To give me plenty of notice, I had to find a topic to talk about in quite short notice. I had a volunteer researcher with me at the time, Caitlin Brown, who was doing a Highers, and I asked her to research the witches of Fife. And we had a great book on the shelf that gave us a lot of information. At the same time, I was talking to Councillor Kate. She was saying, I've got loads of information about a local witch and you have to include her in the talk and things like that. Did a bit of research. We were overwhelmed by the number of people who came to the talk. And at the talk, decided that at the plenary bit of the talk, we decided we wanted to do something about it. That was October 2018. By January 2018, we were talking to academics in Edinburgh via Leslie Riddick, who had heard about us. I think it through you, Kate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Leslie Riddick got us to meet up with these academics in Edinburgh. That was Julian Goodare, Louise Yeoman and Lisanne Henderson. And we had quite a feisty chat, didn't we? About what we were interested in and what they had been researching for years, and they were saying, well, it wasn't injustice at the time, it was actually a historical, that was the way the society was at the time, and there were good reasons for this to happen, etc. And we go, no, that's not right. So we had quite a lot of philosophical chat. We decided, Leslie said, what we need is a conference, and we went, we'll do a conference. So by May 2019, we had a conference, and we had the three academics and Leslie Riddick in the plenary session. We had artists doing breakout sessions. We had a couple of people talking about the Witches' Maze at Tullyallen, which was fantastic. And we had over 100 people at that as well. And Kate had organised the venue, and we got loads of things for free from people. It was brilliant. And that was kind of where Fife Witches really got underway, and we made a Facebook page as well, and that has been our method of communication, the Facebook group. After that, we started meeting more and more regularly, like once a month, spreading the word. We had an event on October the 31st, keep me right people. Kate organised a wreath laying ceremony in August 2019, and this was to celebrate Lilias Adey, who you'll hear more about in a minute. And that went really well. And then October the 31st, we had Douglas Spears, who's the county archaeologist, coming and talking about Lilias as well. And that was well subscribed, oversubscribed as well. So we keep having to get bigger and better venues. And the idea was that we would have our second conference in May 2020 at the Carnegie Hall in Dunfermline, which can loads of people. But of course, then COVID happened.
Yeah.
Since then, we've been meeting on a fortnightly basis on Zoom, and we've managed to set up a committee, and we're trying to become a registered charity as well. I'm going to back off now and shut up, because Sheila is the chair now, and she's in charge.
No, I'm not in charge. It's like herding kittens. They all do what the hell they like. No, it's been really good. I mean, I've gotten involved because Sarah ran our International Women's Day event, and I went to that.
I've forgotten
and Kate was a speaker about Lilith, but her little speech workshop breakout thing was oversubscribed, so it became an event at the end of what should have been the end of the day. They added on another bit because everybody wanted to hear about Lilith's story, because it was so unusual. I mean, I'd never heard of it. That led me to go into the conference, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and then on to the other bits Sarah mentioned, the talk from Douglas. and then joining the meeting, asked to do the chair, which is, lockdown's been a bit weird because we've actually managed to get quite a lot done that we might not have done if we'd all been together sitting in a cafe chat. We've managed to put together a constitution, some office bearer. We're in the middle of doing our application to become a charity, you know, and in the meantime, while this has been going on, Kate and Jane and Heather and Douglas have all been organising the launching of the Witches Trail, which is just fabulous. I mean, it's beautiful.
That took place on Saturday there, didn't it?
That was the event we had on Saturday at Curris. Obviously, Kate is the person to speak to about that. So we're always looking for people who'd like to join the committee and, you know, help organise things in the background, because we have brilliant days like Saturday where we launched ourselves properly because we hosted the launching of the trail. Now we'll become one cohesive group and move forward. But it does, I mean, I'm sure everybody's buzzing about ideas of what we can do, because it was such a well-attended event. And I mean, we've been in the Daily Record, we've been on the front page of the Courier, which was a bit of a surprise when I was buying milk the other morning. I was like, oh, I know them. You know, and we've linked in with some amazingly interesting people. So yeah, if you're interested in the history of Fife, the Reformation, women's, because, well, obviously I was interested in the women in history. Yeah, it's really interesting. You learn lots. I've learned so much. It's really good, and it's a lovely bunch of people to get involved in. Yeah, we are a bit unruly. We are all passionate. We're very passionate about this.
Yeah, I get the sense from, you know, the smiles on the faces and the enthusiasm that there's a real kinship with these women who have gone before you.
I mean, I didn't know anything. I knew about Janet Horn in Dornoch because I've got family up there, and I knew about the Pit and Wheat.
She was Janet as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Janet, yeah.
Oh,
it's gone from my head as well.
Completely gone. But you know, so I knew about them, but I had no idea there was so many. And I live in a wee village in the East Neuk. I live in Crail, and digging about and finding out a little bit more about the history of Crail because of all this, and the map that Julian Goodacre's team put together. You know, there are 26 accused witches in Crail. I mean, I didn't know Crail was that big back in the 1600s, but it is, and it's just the amount of history on our doorstep that we don't know about, and the history of women that we don't know about. Shockingly massive.
Yeah, from the point of view of social history, like you're talking about from your hometown, it's very interesting to map that history, and because nowadays you put somebody on the ground and put a door over them and have a horse walk over them, you know.
More than once. More than once.
Yeah.
I know, the only witch in Scotland to be a lynch that we think, or that we've come across. I mean, some of the stories in Fife are actually quite upsetting. I mean, Lilith's story is horrible. What they did to that woman was just awful. What they did to Janet Cornfoot was just hideous. And some of the things they accused these people of was just you know, you couldn't make that rubbish up. I mean, you really couldn't.
If I said that there was almost a wanting to make history right.
No, I know we can't rewrite history, and there's no, you know, we're not even attempting to do that. What we're thinking is doing is shining a light. We should be proud of our history as Scottish people, but we shouldn't just sweep it under the carpet because it's uncomfortable. And the Reformation and the witch hunts is a hugely important part of Scottish history that a lot of people, I didn't get taught it at school.
Yeah. Same here, yeah.
You know, and a lot of stuff happened in and around the witch hunts and what caused them, why they took off, and King James being so keen on it all, and the reasons behind that, and his thinking. Yeah, it's a hugely interesting subject that can take you in all sorts of directions. Yeah,
because correct me if I'm wrong, I'm right in saying that King James, he believed that because his future wife had died in the sea, that was a witch was responsible for that.
Queen Anne of Denmark was supposed to come across, and the weather was really bad, and in Denmark the witchcraft sort of witch hunts were sort of bubbling away, and they blamed witches on the inclement weather that made sailing really bad. So King James went and brought her to Scotland safely. But yeah, and that triggered the North Berwick witch trials, which is one of the more witch hunts in Scotland.
It's clear that you put a lot of work into getting here, all those meetings, all those constitution changes, going for charity status. What was it like being there on Saturday? And maybe thinking back to that first conversation that see everybody's smiling.
No, but on Saturday morning I felt sick because I was so nervous.
Really?
I felt sick. I was like, oh my God, what if nobody shows up? And things like that. And Kate had deliberately kept us all away from seeing the actual disc, so it was a surprise. And Heather's husband had made a flag for it with our logo and that on it. It was just, I'd seen pictures of them, but to actually see them in real life was they're just beautiful.
Yeah, the pictures didn't really do them any justice, did they, Sheila?
No, they
the pictures looked amazing, but when you see them in real life, it was just what a lovely feeling you got when you saw it.
And an incredible amount of work that's gone into that.
And that's down to Jane and Kate. And on display, so people can go and see them on the shoreline, but also in Dunfermline.
In the reading room, but people can only go in for an hour at a time. And you have to make an appointment. It's kind of annoying.
Can I add to that, Sarah?
Yeah, please. Well, we've got over 700 people now on the Facebook group, so
I saw that. You've got a very large gathering of support there.
Yeah.
133 people on Twitter.
Wow.
133 people on Twitter. So because of the event, we went from 50 to 133.
Well done. And it was the same way the Facebook as well, didn't it?
Yeah, Facebook's gone nuts over the last couple of days.
I've got 810.
Now, oh my God, I've looked at it this morning.
810.
Can you tell me about Lily Sadie? Because I'm aware that she's the only witch that has a grave, if you like. But
she's my neighbour. She stays across the water from me, just across the road.
Really?
So she's my immediate neighbour.
Wow.
And that's why, I've been here as a lot of years, and a lot of other people as well. You just walk past it and you don't, some people don't even know it's there, and that's the issue, because we were always talking about this witch, but didn't know the full story. So it's finding out her story, and when you hear her story, it's disgusting, it's horrific, like people say, and it's an injustice. And that's when you're talking about rewriting history. We're not rewriting history. It's writing a wrong story. It's righting the wrong for the injustice that was caused to them. The torture, the humiliation, the accusations, everything. That was unjust. Lawyer that we had, the top QC that we had on Saturday, she says all that as well. She's going for a legal pardon and an apology in some cases as well, where we're working on the National Memorial to actually highlight some of these stories, that would help do that. We also had a wee campaign because part of Lilith is missing, her skull's missing, and there's a story attached to that about Curo hunters robbing her grave in the 1820, and sold them to St Andrews University. As I say, that's another story, and we would like Lilith back home, but she's not gone back in that grave. That's horrendous. We would find a nice spot for her. So that's another angle. It also develops as we go on, it grows. First of all, we laid a wreath to Lilith to commemorate the anniversary of her passing. And it was some event, Jane, but the hall was full, and it smelled lovely, and the atmosphere was lovely. But a hall full of people coming along to make a summer wreath. And one of them were gone, or a couple of them were gone beside Lily in the afternoon. So in the morning, making the wreaths, and there was teas and coffees, and it was just a great atmosphere. And on top of that was all the lovely wreaths that were made, and there's a photo of that. And we went over the shore to lay the wreath, and the wind whipped up a storm. She tried to tell us on here. But it went viral. It went absolutely viral because I managed to get a civic ceremony with the deputy, Julie Ford, coming along and laying a wreath on behalf of the council. So when they boys got taken, they went viral. The next week, I was getting phone calls for as far as France, America, Canada, London, and wanting interviews about Lillis. You know, I was on Boston radio, Canadian radio, London radio. People wanted to know about Lillis, and I found that such heartening. People wanted to know about her, and that's where it was growing and growing as well. So with all these angles to it, it was about recognising Lillis, about the National Memorial, about getting her skull and that returned. And now we're moving on there as well. The National Memorial we want to have in West Fife for the sake of being near Lillis, and because she's the only what they call reverend in Scotland, meaning it shows you the belief that they had that because Lillis died suddenly in the prison, that her soul was still possessed with the devil. So they buried her hurriedly on the shoreline, believing that witches couldn't walk on water, they were feared of water. So this big doorstop and being underwater would keep her there, because they were afraid that the devil would bring her back to torment or tormentors. Basically, this is how they done everything so quick. But it's the level of humiliation that they placed on these people as well. That's horrific, as well the torture that they had to endure too. And I think Lillis, well, the records state that she could have been about 60. So she was an older woman.
They reconstructed her face, and it is a picture of an elderly lady, essentially.
Your granny?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So it was totally unjust. But now the shores moved, you know, the shorelines moved, so she's no underwater all the time. So that's one of the things. But the grave is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. So if we ever get her skull in that back, and we're thinking about, you know, can we get her exhumed and moved somewhere nice? Because the other distressing thing for Lillis would have been that they were very much into the religion in the day. And so for her to think that she would be cast aside and out with a consecrated burial ground would have added to the stress factor as well. So, and Louise Yeoman was at the event, the Ruth Lane event last year, and she'd said that 315 years ago, nearly to the day, that Lillis was cast out that community. She was banished by the community. And that Ruth Lane actually was respectful and welcomed her back. You know, so there's the change there. The other change for me is we are talking about the accused and know the accusers, which in itself is powerful, because they thought they were very powerful then, you know, where they had the control and everything, where now we've got Lillis taking back control as well as the other accused. So, you know, things are changing.
So you're, if you like, empowering our spirit, bringing things full circle.
For me, it says that for me, you know.
Yeah. And
the wee group that we had kicked off in the West Fife was the Heritage Network, which means we looked at the history all around West Fife. And you had the mining, which goes right around the villages as well. But because of Lillis, we'd done a wee exhibition and people were really interested in her. And again, we'd done the things that Sarah had said, and it was growing momentum. The group had come up with the idea about a wee accused witches trail, but mainly focusing on Lillis because her story is that big. So one of the discs is at the shore, just in the line of her grave, because people don't know that grave, and they've stayed here other days. Don't know about Lillis and don't know about the grave, but they do now. So that's the difference there. The other one is up at Valleyfield, the entrance to Valleyfield Woods, because part of her trial, or what the allegations were, that she confessed immediately to being a witch. That was the first question I asked myself. Why would she want to confess to being a witch? And you had the thoughts that maybe it was to stop some of the torture and that. Don't know. But then when you read more, she never probably said a word. It was them. So
They were writing the history, weren't they? They were writing the records, so they could say what they liked.
She hadn't a voice. She hadn't a voice at all. The allegation was that she used to liaise and dance with the devil in Valleyfield. So we had to mark Valleyfield as well. So the entrance to Valleyfield Woods would have been the former estate, Valleyfield Estate, at that time. That's how the other one's there. So it's another part of her story that travels with her, you know. But then moving on to Couros, we were going to go to Kincardine, but we didn't find any in Kincardine. So the Couros is another huge story, because the small borough, like what Sheila was talking about, Crail, there was 32 accused in Couros. So we marked that with the disc as well, and the story. So Lindsay, one of the local women, she told the story of the Couros, and it's right directly across from the town hall where they were held. You know, they were held up in that tower, waiting trial and being imprisoned. And some of the horrific stories that they suffered from as well. There is, we get in the top QC as well with the legal pardon. So there's loads going on now. You've got the pardon, you've got the apology, you've got the memorial, you've got maybe hopefully exhuming Lilies to a nicer, respectful resting place would be to top it all. That's the passion as well. We've a lot to do, and it's a big challenge, and if we do it, that'll be fantastic. But we've a journey to go.
To join with other groups across Scotland as well, because places like Orkney and Paisley and North Berwick and Haddington have already got some memorials, so we're trying to link up with them and get their support to actually get a national memorial, because there's nothing. There's a fountain in Edinburgh that witches were burned here. It doesn't say who they were or anything like that. It's just a terrible thing. So there's nothing in Edinburgh. But we think that with the passion that we've got here in Fife, that we're the right place to take it forward and move it on. But we would like the support of the others as well. So with other groups at the minute.
Yeah. How can people out there who are listening to this help?
Join the Facebook page to start off with. Anyway, Sheila and Liz actually got an extra 50 members on Saturday at Couros, so let's go on.
Yes, the committee, we decided we'd do a membership drive, so that and you know, we sort of membership forms and little membership cards, and to sort of like garner more support, so we could talk to people as well, and hopefully make links with people. And then we don't need to do all the research. Quite a lot of it's already been done, but what we need people to do is tell us the stories that they found, so that we can gather information, but also to share a collective interest in this, to drum up support for the memorial, the national memorial, the pardon, you know, the apology, to raise awareness, to make, you know, they've got a whole load of like-minded people together who want to tell these stories, and let's get them all recorded, you know, so that it's there before, you know, too much longer and they're just completely gone. Because a lot of the documents and a lot of the local stories, some of them are sort of verbal stories. You know, why is this street called Witches Knoll or whatever, you know, and things like that. And that's all fascinating, why these places are called that. And, you know, and some of it is fact and some of it is, you know, myths that have grown up about it. But that's what makes it so interesting, because for Lilith's case, I mean, she was just an ordinary, lovely old lady going about her business, was then treated appallingly, killed, and then what happened to her after that, I mean, Kate said, you know, St Andrews University bought her skull and then they lost it, and walking sticks made out of them, if I'm right, the coffin, you know, and then who had the walking sticks and stuff like that. It's not just all about sort of, we're not, you know, we don't necessarily want to stick on, you know, like the torture and all the gruesome stuff and all the rest of it, but it's also, you know, like who these people were. These people deserve to be remembered. They were treated badly by their community, like Kate said, and, you know, and need to be respected, because they didn't do anything.
They weren't all guiltless of perhaps being socially annoying, you know. And in a way, yeah, exactly. There are stories of a couple in Kirkcaldy who, you know, would have had asbos if they'd been around in these days. But
there was a lot in Kirkcaldy.
in fact, were accused of witchcraft instead, you know. So none of them were witches. This word witches causes so much problem because witchcraft doesn't exist. You know, it's not a legal thing. And to be able to accuse somebody very easily of something that having sex with the devil, you know, there's no substantiation for it. There's no evidence. There's nothing that say, right, this happened on this day. We know it happened. It's all just made up. Whoever you want to accuse, you can accuse. You know, that's the...
Be circumstantial as well. If somebody sort of wished somebody ill, and we've all cursed somebody, but they took it literally, and then if, you know, like if you said, oh God, I hope your cow drops dead, and then 3 weeks later it does, whoa, that was you were a witch. I mean, who has that power? And we're not trying to sort of, we're not, when we talk about like what Sarah says, you know, the word witch, it's we're not talking about it in the modern context. We're talking about it in the historical context, and that's really important because we know that Wicca is a growing
religion.
In modern times, but we're not comparing the two because they're not comparable. These were people who were accused of doing something they couldn't possibly have done.
So you're giving a voice to the voiceless.
Well, it's like what Kate said.
Yeah.
Our group's about the social injustice and recognise that social injustice.
Also, what other people can do if they want is, and we could help them, is if they wanted to continue the trail. That's the start of the Witches' Trail that has the potential to go all around Fife and all around Scotland.
All around Scotland, yes.
Yeah.
There's potential. We will make this happen. Because it's really cool.
If they wanted to sort of tell their own story, we could help continue that trail round wherever they are, so that other people's names are recognised and their stories told as well. And again, the injustice that happened. So this could be the start of a bigger trail. If people want it, we would help them. You know, that's the start of the trail. But as I say, and a potential to go right round Fife and all the way up and down Scotland. You know, so if people want that, we'll help them.
Well, if you want me to do it in Kirkcaldy, I'll do it in Kirkcaldy. I'd absolutely love to. I'd love to. I'm absolutely loving speaking to you ladies because the passion and the work that you're putting into making people's voice heard who weren't heard at the time is absolutely amazing. I'd like to ask you one last question. Okay, if Lilias would what would you like to say to her?
Sorry. Absolute sorry.
That is the first word that springs to mind. Just so very, very sorry this happened to you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she was there on Saturday and was watching all this work that you were doing.
Yeah, and you was with us last year too.
It was, wasn't it?
No, I'm sure she was here.
It's like Sarah said, it was windy enough.
It really was. It was a great day on Saturday. The sun shone for us. So there you go. And everything just went like clockwork, I have to say. Everything fell into place. The QC was absolutely tops. With her speech and everything as well, you know. And
well, Claire Mitchell has her own campaign, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Witches of Scotland. So I mean, it's about linking in with people and promoting each other because we support what she's doing. She supports what we're doing. So
So for the campaign for the National Memorial in Fife, particularly West Fife, because Lilias is here, we would love support for that people are agreeing that we should have one. Basically, that's what we're looking for as well, you know.
And there's lots of reasons for it being in Fife and not just West Fife because of Lilias, because we have a disproportionately large number of accused witches, and most of the more famous ones are in Fife. So I know there's the North Berwick witches and the Orkney witches and the Paisley ones, but for some reason Fife has quite a few, you know, like I said, infamous ones like Lilith or Janet Cornfoot, and the Great Witch of Balwearie and all the rest of it. So I mean, there's lots of reasons why it needs to be in Fife, but mainly because we have Lilith here.
Yeah, and we'll bring her back at some point. We're exhuming her for that horrible grave. It's horrible.
Yeah, you're sorting out your neighbour. You're going to make sure she's got a better resting place.
I mean, that would have asked to the stress of her that she'd been accused that, and she knew she was going to be burnt. You know, they were outside consecrated ground. That, you know, a lot of people really believed that they were very religious then, for the end of their days, to be out with, you know, their community basically.
Yeah, the horrible thing about Lilia is that she was accused once before and managed to get out of that. Don't know how she got out, but then she was re-accused. I mean, she'd gone through the stress twice, you know, so she would have seen it happening to other people and heard what happened to people who were accused, so she would have known what was coming as well. And it was fairly late on in the terms of the witchcraft trials and things. It was towards the end.
But but when she died unexpectedly in prison, and that frightened the life out of them. I mean, we know that frightened them because of her burial, because of the way they buried her. They were frightened. So basically, even with her dying, she taken a wee bit control back for them, you know. And I hope she gave them some sleepless nights. I really do.
And it's strange how differently, just a few hundred, you know, 20 odd miles apart, like they were in Pittenweem, they lynched Janet Cornfoot, but we have no idea what they did with her after that. Whereas, at least we know where Lilith is. We can respect her and give her a rightful place. And she's the inspiration behind the whole project.
Hundreds of years later, and we're talking on Zoom about her. Amazing stuff, absolutely amazing stuff. Thank you very much, ladies. I really appreciate your time. And if listeners want to find out a little bit more, they can go to the Facebook page, Remembering the Accused Witches of Scotland.